Yo, my peoples, what's up? Welcome to the One Stop Co-op Shop. Jason here, and today I have a preview playthrough for the latest from Thunderworks Games. This is Dawn of Ulos. The theme of the game is that we are going to be playing gods of this world, this newly formed world where portals have opened and factions are pouring in and trying to establish dominance in their particular territories. So there's going to be familiar factions like the Sheki and orcs and goblins and frogkin, all your favorites from the role player universe. Only we're not going to be playing these individual factions. As I said, we're going to be playing gods and manipulating how they populate and how they interact and eventually conflict with one another. In essence, this is a tile laying game. We are going to be building out each individual faction's little empire and directing the course of their interactions and combats. And if we can manipulate things so that we are always on the winning side of those combats, then we will win the game. Today, I'm happy to bring you a solo playthrough against Ulrir, who will be presenting some direct opposition on the board. Please keep in mind everything that you see here, the board, the minis and all that are prototype quality. Go ahead and check out the Kickstarter project, the link for which will be in the show notes if you're interested in this one. But before I get to all that, let me tell you about the One Stop Co-op Shop. We are a gaming empire. We are all over the place. We have our YouTube channel, which is where you are now. We bring you previews of the latest and greatest on crowdfunding platforms. We have new hotness and old favorites. Lots of stuff we cover on the main channel as well as on the YouTube stream channel. Any like of videos and subscriptions to those channels would be greatly appreciated. We have our podcast twice per week. We do special topics and discussions and interviews and also direct game analysis. Peter Guzis and Michael Kelly, game designers, like to take a look at the games that are hitting their table, especially on the cooperative end, and break all that down for you. We have our Discord, which is an amazing community with a lot of friendly people. Please feel free to join. While you're looking at the Kickstarter link for Dawn of Ulos, skip down a couple lines, you'll see the link to our Discord. Come on in. It's great and it's free. You can contribute to our Patreon for additional access to tiers, exclusive videos, and all that kind of thing. But if you just want to join, it's completely free to join. As I said, come on in. We would love to have you. We are the One Stop Co-op Shop, your one stop for cooperative and solo gaming goodness. There is a lot going on in Dawn of Ulos. The tile laying and the area majorities and the conflicts and all that good stuff that I'm going to go through as I get through the playthrough. However, I wanted to set the context with a very simple principle, the thing that is going to drive your turn-by-turn decisions and is ultimately going to determine who wins. That principle is buy low, sell high. As I said in the intro, no one is playing the actual individual factions. You're playing a god that is kind of puppeteering what's happening between the factions. What you want to try to do is you want to try to get to the point where you're invested in the most powerful factions, and you want to get in on the investment as cheap as possible. Okay, so let's take an example here, the Sheki. So then they're going to come on the field at a certain point, and they're going to be very dinky. They're going to have 0 territory. Eventually, you're going to want to buy their cards. I would buy their cards using favor. So favor doubles as currency. Favor is victory points and currency. So you'll be spending that and getting it. So then if I spend my favor right now while they're low, I get them nice and cheap. And I'd be buying their cards. These cards are all exactly the same. They all have 1 power, do the same thing. All the faction piles are all of the same copy of the card. So then for the relevant amount of favor, I would buy cards that are relevant to the Sheki. As the game goes on, I'm going to want to increase the power of the Sheki by increasing their territory, placing tiles that correspond to their chosen symbols, in this particular case, mountain and forest. So as I place those tiles, this value will go up. So like 3, 4, 5, they're going to get mightier as a civilization, and their cards, when they're played, are going to get more from me in return. So let's say I wanted to start divesting of the Sheki at this point. I don't like the way their game is going and I want to bump them down a little bit, I'm going to want to sell at this inflated price. So I bought the Sheki cards for 2. I can end up selling them for 5, and that would increase the amount of favor I have to be able to buy more cards, invest in other factions, etc. So the factions are going to go up and down all around depending on what happens with the conflicts. Eventually, 2 of the factions are going to reach their legendary stage. Once that happens, that triggers the end game, and then points will be calculated. So now let's get into the turn-by-turn actions that allow players to grow these empires. So here are the tiles. There are always 2 hexes, and you're going to get a choice of 3 of them to play. On your turn, you choose one and play it. That will be the first part of every player turn. So then in the beginning of the game is encouraging players to play camps. So every single faction has this mini that represents their camp. That's their home base. That's where they stretch out from. At the beginning of the game, you are going to find these rift tiles. I'll get to that in a little bit. And you're going to play tiles in such a way that you can get the camp going. Now, tile placement is very strict. You can only place on the matching terrain. So I could not do that. I could not do that. I could not place on water at all unless I have a relevant faction in play. For the most part, you're going to want to try to match terrain to terrain. Now, please note this is prototype. This not very clearly stand out one from the other. I'm sure by the time the Kickstarter launches, this will have some sort of graphic thing that will make it much clearer on the table. Anyway, so then I'm going to place that here. And because the Sheki faction has the 3 hexes together, they are going to bloop, get their camp started. So I buried those 2 symbols, so it doesn't matter anymore. What matters is what I do from here. So on future turns, I'm going to want to grow their tiles. Let's say on a future turn, I had this tile, which would be perfect for the Sheki. I would place it here. It would correspond to their card. And then I would adjust the tile according to the strength and the size of the territory. So now I have 2 territory, strength is 4. That is how I adjust the faction. As the game goes on, other factions will appear, and I will eventually be able to place tokens adjacent to either the camp or one of the tokens that is connected to the camp. That would initiate a conflict. So I'll go over conflicts once I start the playthrough, but just letting folks know it is during tile placement that we initiate conflicts. So then this is my character, and we are ready to do the second phase. The first phase was develop. The second phase is going to be take some kind of action, usually either acquire cards or use them. So then for the second phase, this is where you do the buying of cards. So then you could buy up to 3, and you would judge whether it's worth it to buy some of the more expensive cards from a progress faction or get in on a very low faction while they're down there. If you don't have the favor, which once again is the currency of the game, and that's going to happen sometimes, then you would instead choose to play one of your cards. You would fire off the power, and then you would get the gold value back. So then, as I mentioned before, let's say I had started to get off of my Sheki and I had got them to where I could sell them for 5. I would play the power, get 5 favor, and then move on. Third phase of the turn, I would draw another tile to replace the one that I had played before, and then I would pass turn and move on to my opponent. So here is the bot Ulrir, and I gotta say this bot is fairly slick the way they did this. So then I would begin the game by constructing this deck and dealing 3 of the cards to the top. This would determine the actions that it would take in a round. So then I'd pull a card and then see where I would place it. So you see that 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I would choose to put that there. And then this is my jam for the turn that I'm going to check out. So then the first thing that it would do is it would place a tile of just drawing it from the reserve that would benefit this particular faction. So the way I have it laid out, it would benefit this faction, which is the satyrs. So then if the satyrs were not out, then it would place the camp and get the benefit from there. But the satyrs in this particular case are already out, so then it would place a tile in such a way that it would benefit the satyr faction, grow their territory, etc. So then, just like the player, it would consult the bottom part of the card and see whether it either had the favor to acquire some cards, and in this particular case, it would be acquire 3 of the satyr cards, paying for them. If it could not pay for them, then it would draw a random card from its own score pile and acquire money that way. It would not discard it because it's the bot. It cheats. But in this particular way, you can see how sometimes it's acquiring favor, sometimes it's spending favor in order to get better cards. One other little bit to note in terms of point scoring. So these Rift tokens are worth points if you're able to acquire them. At the beginning of the game, they're going to get buried for the most part by the opening placement of the camps. So then I would put a token here, I'll put something on top of there, and they would be buried. So I can acquire them in 2 ways. One, conquer them. If I conquer or I direct a conquest, kind of puppet master one of the other factions to dig in there, and I would be able to acquire that for myself, or by just building territory and putting a piece adjacent to a Rift token. I could keep them for points, or I can use a power. So if I'm stuck, I have some options if I build up some Rift tokens. So that is not all the rules by a long shot. Like I said, I did not demonstrate conflict. There's a whole bunch of little things to learn, but I hope that gives you enough of a sense of game flow so that you understand what's happening in this playthrough, which is going to start right now. It is time for the playthrough to begin. I have the first player marker, which is going to go to the bot. I do not believe there's a way to take that away unless there's some cards that do that. That's not in this initial layout, so it's going to be bot and then me for all the turns. So I have a choice right before the bot does anything, because the way it's designed, it would kind of telegraphs who it's going to support early. It's going to support the satyrs. By, especially with this one, laying out a whole bunch of tokens for it. So I have a decision. I could either try to ride the satyr coattails and increase the strength of the satyrs along with it and kind of invest together, or I can invest in a direct competitor and try to knock the bot out first. Think going to be a competitor. We'll see what happens. All right, so we have the beginning card over here. Just go ahead and don't even look at the top. You can just look at the bottom. And then you would follow this one, which would trigger. And lo and behold, the satyrs are going to get the early support. So the book says when placing a camp, I would prioritize the upper left part of the map and then kind of work my way around. So here is the first legal placement that would enable me to place this satyr piece. And now we have founded their empire. But wait, there's more. The bot card specified a second token to be placed, and the legal placement that is attached to them would be right here. Doing things out of order a little bit. When you place a camp placement, anyone places the initial camp placement, they acquire a card. So then this is going to go to the bot. So I'll do that in just a second. Just wanted to let folks know that these are the preferred terrain for the bot. I only count these development tokens. I do not count whatever's under the mini. So right now there is 0 territory that is specifically ruled by the satyrs, and so they would only move out here. So now we go to the card acquisition phase. It is going to buy 2 of the rat folk, because that's what that symbol is. Going to buy 2 of their cards at 1 favor each. Any civilization that is quote unquote lost, which is nowhere to be found on the strength board, the lowest possible spot, they are going to acquire these into its own pile. So now it has 3 cards. It is also going to acquire a satyr card for 2 because the strength is now 2. And then that wraps up the card acquisition phase. And then we take this card, we chuck it, that is out of the game right now, and that is how the bot cycles through its support. So very, very slick system right there. All right, so I kind of like the idea of building up the Ratfolk as a contender. So we're going to go ahead and put that there and get the Ratfolk camp going. So their card, so I actually get one of these just by placing those. But their card keys off of symbols that are very plentiful in this part of the board. these pieces of map are distributed randomly, so it just so happens that this came together to benefit the rat folk. Good for you. Anyway, so I'm going to build them up and eventually do some conquest. So I get the rat folks card right there, and I'm ready to make a run to have a nice strong rat folk dominate the territory there. So let us go ahead and move that token right there, and we are going to acquire all 3 cards. In for a penny, in for a pound. That cost me 6. I end my turn by drawing a new tile. I can work with that. That's the end of my turn. All right, next up we have firing off over here. Wow, rat folks getting a lot of support early. So let's go ahead and put 1 randomly drawn tile that will benefit them. But as you can see, there is no tile that obeys the placement rules. Like I said in the overview, the placement rules are very, very strict. If you can't do it, gotta go down the priority chart, which in this particular case is that the bot goes for a rift tile instead. So you don't have to build out all connected to one area. You could build as you see fit. Let's go ahead and put that token there and claim that for the bot unseen. Points for them. It says it acquires 3 cards for the Sheki. Now the Sheki are still lost, so they pay it. So they're able to get these cards, 3 of them, at the low price of 1 each. Man, what a cheater that bot is. Discard that one. I won't film this particular action every time. Just wanted to illustrate that that is how the bot works. All right, so let's go ahead and get more factions out there. It is time for the Sheki. The Sheki are going to go there. Not going to let the bot just have all the Rift tokens by itself. It's also good for me to start some camps instead of the bot because I get the 1 card for free. So now that I've moved the Sheki out to the 0 territory non-loss space, I have the option. Do I want to diversify my holdings or do I want to go on the rat folk? Why not? It's only a preview playthrough. So I'm going to go ahead, spend 6, buy on the rat folk. They are going to dominate the world. Pull my new tile, pass turn. All right, the bot is going to fire off the first space again. And it is going to benefit the Sheki again. The bot pulled double planes. No change in strength for the Sheki. This is the quality of the mini. So not only can you look at the card, you can look at the mini as well. It benefits from mountain and forest, neither of which I placed. It is going to buy 2 Ratfolk card and an Orc card. So the red matches the red. Yes, it cheats. I cannot buy from the Lost faction, but it can. And it is going to spend 5 to do so. All right, so my overall strat for the early game is still to invest 100% into the Ratfolk, but I would like to get all the camp followers out myself so I can get some free cards out of it. So here we are with the Orc Huntress or whatever that is, and I get her card for free. I literally have no idea if this is a good strat. We are going to continue to spend 6, 2 strength, 3 each, and we are going all in on Ratfolk. So basically, there is 1 or 2 cards left here. There will be no longer an ability to acquire Ratfolk cards until I start spending them. But I want them in my hand. I am going all in. I don't know if that's a good strat, but we're going to go for it. And we have another, basically the exact same tile I had before. All right, so we could start to speed this up a little bit. I think you all get the hint. So then we could stick that right there and benefit Satyr. The Satyr indeed benefits. They extend their territory. And it just so happens to be the 2 pieces of territory that they need in order to grow. So plains and forest. So now they have 2, and so acquiring their cards is going to be much more expensive. So the bot is going to acquire 2 Orc cards for 1 each. Man, I still don't like this cheating bot, but they are going to spend 4, leaving them with 6 or 7 left to acquire this Satyr card. I know we're trying to get to the conflict over here. I will get to that, and I'll have a timestamp letting you know when the conflict is going to occur. Next turn, people, I promise. Next turn, I will get to buffing up my Ratfolk Empire. But first, I want to get the last faction out, which is the Goblin. I get 1 Goblin card for free. No hand limit, as much as cards I can possibly acquire. So just to zoom out for the sake of the state of play, big empty field over here. I have founded all of the factions relatively close to one another so we can get some rumbles going pretty soon. I'm spending 6, which is going to leave me with a paltry 1 left. So next round I'm going to be selling cards to try to get some more money. But for now, let's get those last 2 Ratfolk cards in my hand. And a Sheki. Now I'll get a Goblin card. The Goblins I might just start to build up to try to get some of those Rift tiles eventually. Pull a new tile. Pass turn. So just as a point of order, so let's say the bot was going to acquire cards from here, and there was none. So then it would just go to that sell action, which would be to reveal the top card and get the money value from there and move on. So the bat can always do something. Let's go ahead and pull this. Going to activate the middle this time. Hey, it is going to benefit the goblins. So first tile does benefit the goblins, or it expands their territory. It doesn't actually give them actual benefit. This is the desert-ish area, and this is forest. No use for mountain. Second tile cannot be put anywhere near the camp, so it is going to go ahead and eat another Rift token. Don't like that. So it is going to spend 2, acquiring 2 Orc and a Sheki, as dictated by this card right there. And then we are going to get rid of that. All right, y'all have been patient, waiting long enough. It is time to initiate a conflict. This would go face down, just to indicate that there is a conflict. I know, this is beautiful, right? Don't worry about that. We'll take care of that in a bit. In terms of the rat folks, y'all are staying home. We got some goblins to fight. So we are going to look at the current state of the board right now. They both are at 2 strength, 0 territory. So I determine what cards I'm going to devote to the fight. And as the initiator of the conflict, I determine who was the attacker. I'm going to say that the Sheki are the attacker. All that does is declare that if there's a tie, the Sheki win ties. I am going to contribute 2 goblin cards because I kind of want the goblin to lose. I want to get the maximum value out of these and then get out of investment in goblin. Reason is that observing the bots play, and I can look at this pile at any time, got to shuffle it after. So they have Sheki cards. They do not have Goblin cards. So the chances are very good that they're going to put out enough Sheki cards to win, especially with the tiebreaker that I have set up. You take the bots cards and you take half of the deck. They have acquired 16 cards total, so then you would take the top 8 cards and look to see which cards are relevant for the fight. They got 2 Sheki cards to contribute, and the rest get shuffled back in. So everything is perfectly even. My Goblin cards, their Sheki cards get contributed. Their territory is contributed, so it's a complete tie. I had declared Shekis the aggressor, so they are the winner of the combat. So then the goblins would be all the way back to lost. They lose their territory. And so they have to start over again. As the player who put the tile down, I get this Rift token, which is why I did it, because I want to start getting my own Rift tokens. And I will have that power for later. I'll show you what that power does if it comes up. I lose all these cards. The losing faction gets all of those cards discarded, but I get spoils relative to where they were, not where they are, where they were. So then I would get 4 favor out of that deal. Here is my 4 favor. The Sheki are going to discard 1 as the winning faction, and then put 1 back into the pot, and they are going to get the current value, which is 2. And finally, I recalculate the strength of the new faction. So then the Sheki just acquired 1, 2, 3, 4 mountains. Ooh, no. I say that because I only have 1 Sheki card, and they have a bunch. So they are going to be right there, a formidable foe going forward. And that is how you resolve combat in Dawn of Ulos. All right, so now it is time for my take actions phase, either acquire or sell a card. I have 5 favor, but I'm going to sell anyway. So I'm going to play my 1 orc card. And when you play it, a couple things happen. 1, I get the spoils, which is 2. And also, I can use this power. For every 2 orc strength, place a pillage token from supply on any territory space. So let me go ahead and nerf down the Sheki just a little bit. That just basically takes that territory off the board, at least until I get myself a little bit better with that faction. Have a feeling that Orc and Ratfolk are going to be the next on the docket, but we're going to do a slight detour. Thank you very much for helping out my favorite faction, bot. So this is how much of a dirty rat the bot is. It only has 3 favor, but it is buying 3 goblin. The goblin are currently lost. Their cards cost 1, so they're going to spend all 3 of their tokens and buy 3 goblin cards at the basement low price. Man, this bot is such a cheater. All right, so now the Imperial March of the Rat Folk begins. First, we are going to go there because I want that Rift token. I want to get everything, but first things first. All right, so I have 6. Going to spend all 6 to get in on Orc while it is nice and cheap. All right, new plain token. More buffs for the Rat Folk. I like to see that. The bot goes. Bot is going to fire off the middle and begin to expand the Orc Empire. So I want to make sure that I am always the aggressor. I don't want the bot to initiate combat, so made sure by having these 2 water tiles here. Can't cross water unless I have the specific faction for it, which I don't in this game. So let's go ahead and put there. Hey, look at that. I have the desert token over here, which used to be called hill. Is that a hill or a desert? Who knows? Which happens to benefit Orc by giving it 2 of the thing that it wants. So now it is stronger. So now it can't buy this card. A, can't afford it. B, there's no Ratfolk cards left. So it is going to get twice the benefit of the top card, which is Goblin, but time. That's a lost faction, so it's only going to get 2 favor out of that. And then it is going to get the benefit of the Ratfolk. The Ratfolk are worth 2. Yes. So it definitely not a great turn for the bot, but if they don't discard them, they just get it back and you shuffle it in. All right, it is my turn to place a tile, and we are going to execute that action. I knew I had these tiles in here, and it pointed me right at this Rift token. So I have no money whatsoever, so I'm going to have to play a card, which is why I got in on those Orc cards while they were super cheap. So then they have, for every 2 Orc strength, and now their strength is 4, I can place a pillage token and negate a power of another faction. That is going to be the Satyrs. The Satyrs I have 0 investment in at the current time, so we're going to go ahead and put tokens on there that will nerf their power. And now I have cut them down to size and also gotten 4 favor for my trouble. Draw a token to end my turn and then go for the bot. The bot is going to fire off this right hand symbol and improve the Orc faction. The Orcs are going to go ahead and improve their faction strength by 1. I apologize for the error earlier. I have not been improving the Ratfolk faction. They have been improving in parallel, and they are setting up for quite the rumble sooner than later. All right, so they cannot afford anything because they only got the 4 favor last turn, so they're going to go ahead and turn over a card and get double of what it is. The Satyrs, good thing I just nerfed them. So they're going to get 4 total from the Satyrs. And the Ratfolk, who are, well, they're going to get some favor out of that. They're going to get 4 out of that 1 card. All right, well, we are going to do this nice and slow and build up to the eventual conflagration. So I'm going to put the token here. It gives me access once I get the double plane or double hill or whatever this is to get this rift tile. Hopefully I get it before any of these 2 factions get it. And I get to improve another strength for this additional desert tile. I have 4 favor, not enough to really make an impact, so I'm going to use this Orc card again. So I get to place 2 more pillage tokens and continue to nerf my, or I keep on saying my, as if the Rat Folks are my faction. They're not. They're just the one that I'm invested in. But the Rat Folks enemies are going to continue to quake at its might. And the Sheki are now down by 2. That sale nets me 4 favor. I'm now up to 8. Draw my tile. Move on. See what I got for the bot action. The bot is going to go in the middle and improve the rat folk. Look at that. All right, let's go ahead and get that much closer to conflict with the orc and place this one too. The rules say if there is a conflict, then I would start in the north and then kind of rotate around. There is no conflict, so let's just go ahead and get that in there and raise the rat folk by 1 again for these planes. That's what I'm looking at, and that is excellent. Once again, it will try to acquire rat folk cards. Doesn't have any, so it's going to acquire yet more favor. Goblin, lost faction, get you twice. That's what I'm talking about right there. And the satyrs, which are sitting at 0 territory, so they are going to get 2 out of that. Yes. Big dumb bot. Love that. All right, you've been waiting long enough. Let's go ahead and do this thing. Ratfolk versus Orc. All right, so here we are. Let's go ahead and set up the combat. I choose to play my cards first. I'm going to contribute a lowly 2 of my many Ratfolk cards. And I'm also going to contribute an Orc card because I want to get rid of it because I plan on the Orcs losing. So now the bot is going to take 10 cards out of their 20 and look through and contribute those cards. All right, so I've organized those a little bit. We're going to head discard those 5 irrelevant cards. They're actually going to help the rat folk. Thank you very much, bot. So there you go. This is my cards, the bot cards. Clearly, the rat folk have won. So the bot is going to return all of their losing card factions at cost. So they are going to acquire 8 favor out of that. They have plenty now. And they are going to return 2 of their Ratfolk cards, half rounded up, and put 1 back in their deck. The Ratfolk card that they contribute are going to be worth 5. So they get 10 favor out of that. You see, I was struggling for favor a little bit, but now we're flowing because bigger factions are fighting. So I get to sell my 1 Orc card, and that's going to get me 4 favor. And I return 1 of my Ratfolk cards, because I only have to contribute half rounded up, and that will net me 5, and I get to return the other Ratfolk card to my hand. Goodbye, Orcs. Hardly knew ye. I want your Rift token. Turn that over. That will add strength to the Ratfolk. So now I add up their strength of the current Empire of the Ratfolk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. A very lucrative deal for that Ratfolk. They only need 4 more territories. Should be easy to get to achieve legendary status. And now I just have to get another faction all the way up here, and that will signal the endgame. All right, so time for me to acquire cards. It now costs 8 to acquire a Ratfolk card, but I am going to because I want to continue to corner the market, and I think these will be good investments. I think I'm just going to buy the 1 for now. I'm going to go ahead and pull that in past turn. Let's go ahead and see what the bot does to respond. They're going to do it in the middle and continue to help out the Ratfolk. Wow, the Ratfolk's mighty territory is growing. So starting northward, we would check to see the first eligible space. You're getting awful close to that Rift token, sir. That belongs to me. But at least you did it in such a way to increase the Ratfolk's power again by 1. So he's going to acquire 2 Satyrs and a Ratfolk card. It is going to spend 13 to do so because 2 Satyr cards is only worth 2. And a Ratfolk card is now worth 9. So go ahead and take that. 1 left in the pile. All right, so for my turn, I am going to put this one right here and reintroduce the goblins into the fray. That gets me a free goblin card. It sets me up to invest in my second faction at the very bottom and take them to the top, baby. So now the goblins are no longer lost. And I am going to spend 6 on 3 goblin cards. Draw, 2 mountains. I know what to do with that. To end turn, let's go ahead and see what the bot does. Bot is going to fire off the middle and benefit those long-forgotten satyrs. No, they're not, because they pulled a token that does not fit around there. So they're going to go ahead and put that there and claim this Rift token. That's why I put the goblins out there. Leave my Rift tokens alone. All right, so they are going to get 2 cheapo orc cards for 1, but then the very, very expensive Ratfolk card for 9. So that will cost them 11. And that is the end of the Ratfolks cards. Wish I could have bought out this pile before, but I needed some capital to reinvest in a new faction. That's the back and forth. I made that choice. All right, I pulled those 2 mountains. Those are not going to benefit factions that I'm interested in, so I'm just going to use those to get my next Rift token. And while they are cheap, I'm going to spend my last 6 favor on 3 more goblin cards. So the goblins want forest. So let's see if I get some forest. I got a little bit of forest. Not too bad. All right, so we are going to go right there and fire off action for the Sheki. You're still in this game? All right, so they're going to place 2. And once again, they're going to prioritize north and going around. They get 1 strength. All right, so I have moved the Sheki marker from 1 to 2. They cannot buy any more Ratfolk cards because there are none. So they're going to turn over a card and get 3 times the value. If they turn over a Ratfolk card, that would be a disaster. They turned over the opposite. Yeah! A lost faction. So they could have gotten about 27 favor out of that, but instead they get 3. Suck it, bot. All right, so now I am pretty much in on Goblin Supremacy. So let's go ahead and place that tile there. That's going to increase the Goblin strength by 1 because of the forest. Now, I don't want to do this too often because I want to keep my pile of Ratfolk cards, but I'm going to sell. I have no money, so I'm going to sell this. The spoils value is 7, so I'm going to get 7 favor. The card power is, for every 3 Ratfolk strength, take 1 development tile from the supply and place 1 tile. Those are separate actions, so I could take the tile, study it, and place any one of the tiles that I possess. The Ratfolk strength is 9, so I could do that 3 different times. All right, so these are the 2 tiles that I had in my hand, and these are the tiles that I need. So they need hill, so I'm going to be placing a lot of hill. All right, so... And also, when I finish this, anytime that I initiate a combat, that would stop this. So then I want to be able to place all 3 before I start any kind of conflict. So let's go ahead and place that right there. That hill is going to get me 1 strength for the goblins. I need to pick another tile. Ooh, forest. I like that. Let's go ahead and place that one right here. Going to increase the... goblins by another because I have 1, 2, 3 territory so far. Let's go ahead and pick another one. And with this one, I'm going to initiate a conflict with the Sheki. All right, so I'm going to be try to be judicious about this. The bot actually won't help me. They have an even distribution, 3 and 3 of Goblin and Sheki, so it's just a matter of the luck of the draw. So for me, I'm going to play 2 Goblin cards and this 1 Sheki card that I think I began the game with, or got extremely early. So let's go ahead and pull the 10, and we have Sheki, Sheki, Goblin, and then the rest go back. And so they're going to contribute 2 to the Sheki, 1 to the Goblin. The Goblin, I had declared them the aggressor. I should have said that before, but that was obvious. They will get the win. The bot is going to discard and have the Sheki lost. They're going to get 8 from that transaction. And the 1 Goblin card they do get rid of, and they are going to get 4 from that one. Get out of here, Sheki card. I don't need you. You were at 4, so I get 4. And I sell 1 of my 2 Goblin cards. Going to keep the other one, definitely, and get another 4 out of that. So then the Sheki have been returned. I get that Rift token that was sitting under there. And I recalculate the strength. Notice that I pillaged the mountains, left the forest for me. Let me go ahead and flip that tile over. So it's forest and desert. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Goblins now have 9 territory, and I am close to my 2 favorite factions hitting legendary and winning the game. So that happened on my card play turn. So that was the goblin card play. So I just ended the turn by picking another land tile. There we go, right there. And let's go ahead and see what the bot does. There you go towards the middle and buff. Hoo-hoo! Oh, okay, they actually bring the orcs back out. Welcome back, orcs. So normally the new camp would have to be added here because it's the last Rift token that's open and available, but this token cannot be placed there. So it would have to go on the first eligible open space that's not attached to any territory and eventually become another camp. Looking at the map, that is going to be here. Eventually the orcs will come back. All right, so this breaks my heart. It's going to acquire 2 goblin cards, my valuable goblin cards, for the price of 16, 8 each, and also buy a Satyr card for 2. That one, have a blast. All right, my turn. I love it when I can accomplish 2 things at once. So I'm going to go ahead and expand towards this Rift token and also buff the goblins by 2. And there we go. And I am going to spend this 9 to acquire the last Ratfolk card. You may not have that, bot. Let's go ahead and acquire another one. Plains or Hill and Forest would be pretty sweet. Forest. Boy, that'll help out. That's nice. Okay, so we have the center that is going to proc, and the goblins are going to get improved with another 2 forest tiles. Love it, love it. Technically, it needs to go in the northernmost part, so it's going to go right there. All right, it is going bargain hunting this turn. 2 from Lost Faction, so let's go ahead and acquire 2 cards from the Sheki and 1 card from the Orcs for the low price of 3. All right, so how funny is this? The goblins went from zeros to heroes by going all the way up to legendary. And that will flip over their tile. So they can lose and get all the way down to lost, but they're still legendary. You still get a point bonus for having cards in the legendary pile. I just need to make sure that they don't get beat. It's actually possible for the rat folks to face off against the goblins. The bot can do that. I'm going to make sure that that does not happen. All right, so I'm going to push the end of the game by playing this Ratfolk card. Same trick for every 3 Ratfolk strength. The Ratfolks are currently at 9. Take 1 development tile from the supply and place 1 tile. We are going to do that for the sake of buffing the Ratfolk and getting them to legendary as well. So what I need to do is I need to add 3 plains, 3 deserts, or some combination thereof, and that would get me to the 15 territories. So let's go ahead and place that one right there, increasing by 1. Ooh, I pulled that. You know what's going to happen with that. Let's go ahead and place that right there. That brings the Ratfolk to 15 and a legendary status, triggering the endgame. And so as my last action of the game, I am going to spend 10 favor to buy this last Ratfolk card, the one that I used. Look at that. Reason being is that I get additional bonus for cards that are among the legendary suit. So this is worth a little bit of extra points for me, and that is the end of the game. So this bottom part is the bot resources, their rift tiles, and their favorite tokens. Here is what I was able to accomplish. I ended up getting about 215 points. The bot has around a 120, 125. It's a big number. I really thwomped the bot over here. Makes me think that I may have messed something up. This is only my 3rd full playthrough of this game, so maybe I'm pretty good at it, or I don't know what's going on. Maybe I need to up the difficulty. But I sincerely hope at least you were able to get the sense of what you could do, the flow, the choices, the combat, the strategic play. There's a lot to offer here in Dawn of Ulos. I hope you enjoyed watching this playthrough as much as I enjoyed filming it. This is Jason from the One Stop Co-op Shop, reminding you that we will see you at the next stop.